shores of Lake Winnebago, Bowen Street, the Bowen Street Pier here down in Oshkosh. I am joined by, we have Angelo and Patrick with the DNR, and we're talking about, get a little closer guys, if you don't mind, talking round gobies, the invasive species round gobies that we know have been found up by the Menasha locks, have closed the locks for 10 years now, have now been found here in Lake Winnebago. What does that mean?
Yeah, sure. So we had our first report this summer of invasive round goby in Lake Winnebago here at the Bowen Street Fishing Pier. And since then, we've kind of been in our response phase, right? We have our response framework for new invasive species findings. So we're trying to assess and find out if gobies may be present elsewhere in the system. We're trying to get reports from anglers and things like that, along with our own monitoring so that we can continue that response and keep this train moving.
Because Patrick, Angela, how detrimental could this be to the system that there are now round goby here in Lake Winnebago?
Yeah, so with any native or with any non-native invasive species, it's hard to make any claims or predictions on the exact impacts that they might have on the local ecosystem. It can be different throughout, different areas that they invade. The Winnebago system is going to be a lot different than other areas that they have been. It really depends on a lot of factors. They're most likely going to be most impactful to those similar species that we have that are native. So, other small benthic forage fish species, those are going to be the most likely ones to be displaced by round gobies, which again are a small benthic forage fish species. They can also have potential impacts to our more sought after game and panfish species through indirect and direct competition. They can compete with smaller juvenile stages of those fish for habitat and food items, and then they can also directly predate on their eggs as well as smaller individuals, young of years and stuff like that.
So, and we've only found them here near Bowen Street because you've been testing and looking for them, and it was actually an angler who brought this to your attention. How key are the anglers going to be to the research and the investigating that you guys are going to continue to do?
Absolutely huge. There's only so many of us, and so much we can do on the system, and there's a lot of people out fishing here all the time. This is a premier fishery. There's a lot of lines in the water, and so that's part of what we're doing today is a call to action, right? If you're an angler and you frequently fish on Winnebago and you encounter a round goby, we want you to report that to the DNR. You can put that fish on ice. You can bring it to your local DNR service center, whether that's Oshkosh, Greenbay, Plymouth, whatever's closest to you. And then we also have an online goby reporting tool that's posted on various signs around the system that has a little QR code. You can scan it on your phone. It takes a picture, it pins your location, it sends us that info electronically so that we can respond, add it to our data, and kind of continue our assessment of where these fish might be in the system.
And you guys have a goby here, right? I'm gonna pick it up, and who wants to do a little show and tell with the goby on what people should look for?
So gobies are a small species. They're usually 3 to 6 inches in length. They can be up to about 10 inches, such in the Great Lakes where they've been established a long time. We see them get a little bit bigger there, but they do look like a lot of our similar native bottom dwelling fish that Angela mentioned, such as log perch or mottled sculpin. But fortunately for round gobies, they have one extremely telltale feature that will tell you have a goby 100% of the time, and that's if we look on the bottom of the fish. If I flip it correctly.
But you also have your other. Here,
yeah, there we go. Let's do both.
There.
You want to do that part, Angela?
Yeah, so the pelvic fin right here on a goby will actually be fused together. It'll form this suction cup-like structure. So you can see on the diagram here, this is our native mottled sculpin. You flip it over, look at its stomach, it's going to have 2 individual pelvic fins. And then in the goby, it's going to be fused together like that dish shape right there. So I think you got a shot of it already there, but you can see how this one is fused, and that's the one telltale sign. If you actually catch a sculpin and you're, thinking it's a goby, if you flip it over and it has those 2 fins, you know right away it's a native species. That fish can be released. That fused pelvic fin is like the #1 thing. Look for that right away. Super easy.
Okay, and we also over here we have our little right here at the end of the pier. There's just a sign on, to look out for these goby. Is this new or had this been here before?
So this effort's been going on for a few years, and these signs have been kind of going up over time at the most popular boat landings, fishing spots around the system, and it's intended to be kind of a one-stop shop. So it has your identifying features here, so you can do a quick check. If you caught a fish, you can compare it to this photo, and then also instructions about exactly what to do with that fish. You know, you can put it in a plastic bag, put it on ice, bring it to the DNR service center, or you can also complete this QR code. It will go to an online tool that will gather the information, a photo, where you are. We'll get that sent to us electronically, and we're able to follow up with the angler from there.
So we're not in panic mode yet that we found it here in Lake Winnebago itself. I mean, we knew it was already sort of in the system, but it's here in Lake Winnebago. So we're in monitoring phase right now, try to see where it is. As of right now, still just concentrated to this area. So we consider that good news?
I think it's definitely interesting news. I think a lot of us had the thought that, you know, we have an invasion front with goby present in Little Lake Butamore, and I think for the most part we expected to see them just upstream of there, given the geographic proximity. So it's been interesting to find them in this location, and for us, you're spot on there. We are squarely in the assessment phase, and given the location of the finding, that's why it's so important to get as much help as we can with reports or other notes of potential findings around the system, so we can continue our planning efforts, which are really contingent on how many we're finding and where we're finding them. It's a really big system. You know, outside of Lake Winnebago, we have connected waters all the way up to Fremont and Shawano and down on the Upper Fox River. So there's a lot of water here, and there's only so much that we can cover ourselves.
And we obviously don't know how it got in here, but it could have been, you know, or how it got into the Lake Winnebago itself, even though it was already in the system, because there are plenty of places that it could come from.
Exactly, yeah. And aside from Little Lake Butamore, there's also gobies are well established in Lake Michigan. That includes Greenbay, as well as the Lower Fox River. Really, any Lake Michigan tributary that connects to the water up to the first impassable dam or barrier, gobies can be expected to be found in those waters. Finding them here has definitely been interesting and may be indicative of something like an inadvertent or accidental bait bucket release, such as someone fishing with bait, didn't know what they had, released it at the end of the day, for example. But ultimately, same as any invasive species, we'll never know that for sure. And so we just kind of have to move forward with the information we have, continue that monitoring and assessment so we can best inform our efforts.
And we can't necessarily, you know, just because they're found here, they're already in Little Lake Butamore, doesn't mean that you're going to be opening the locks or anything like that anytime soon.
Yeah, and that's not really an our decision at the end of the day, but you know, the lock and dam still serve a very important function as a barrier to AIS movement from downstream, upstream, beyond just round gobies as well. You know, that's just one, maybe the most pertinent example at this time, but that continues to be an important barrier to AIS movement upstream in the system.
All right, thanks guys so much. And anglers, if you're out there, definitely find the sign, or here, we'll put this on our website. Lots of information you can bring if you fish a round goby, bring it to your local DNR. All the instructions are on the sign, and we'll have much more on this coming up tonight on Fox 11 News. Have a good day.